Welcome to Nightmare Files, where nightmares come alive. Tonight, we bring you 7 terrifying true stories that will haunt your dreams. Each tale comes from real encounters, haunted places, and legends whispered across the world. From the dark forests of Canada to the eerie streets of London to the lonely highways of America and the vast deserts of Australia. Turn off the lights, sit back and listen closely. Because the scariest stories are the ones you can't explain. Some may feel familiar. Others will make your skin crawl. Whether you're brave enough to face them or not, these are the stories that will keep you awake tonight. Welcome, if you dare. Asterisk. Story 1. The Stalker in the Window. It was just another quiet night in the dormitory when Emily noticed it, a shadow outside her window. At first, she thought it was her imagination, the flickering streetlight playing tricks on her tired eyes. But then, night after night, the same shadow returned. She tried to ignore it, pulling her curtains tight and convincing herself it was nothing. But the feeling of being watched didn't fade. One evening, she glanced up just in time to see a man, standing motionless in the darkness, staring straight at her. His face. She couldn't see it clearly, but the intensity of his gaze made her blood run cold. Emily told her roommate, but she only laughed it off. Probably just someone messing around, she said. Yet Emily couldn't shake the fear gnawing at her every night. She started sleeping with her lights on, double-locking her door, and even recording the window with her phone. The recordings revealed something chilling. Faint footprints in the dew outside her window. Every morning, they were there, leading to her dorm and disappearing just as mysteriously. No one else seemed to notice. The campus security shrugged it off, saying it was probably a prank, but Emily knew better. As days went by, the sightings grew stranger. The man didn't just stand outside anymore. He seemed to linger, shifting slightly, as if trying to find a way in. Emily began hearing noises at night. Soft taps against her window, a slow scratch along the glass, but whenever she looked, no one was there. She even started leaving small notes on her window, hoping it was someone trying to scare her for fun. But the next morning, the notes were gone. One night, the man was closer than ever. Emily froze, realizing he was standing just beyond the glass, staring into her room. Her heart pounded in her chest, every instinct screaming at her to run. She grabbed her phone and called campus security. By the time they arrived, the man was gone, leaving only the footprints behind. To this day, Emily never figured out who he was or why he had been watching her. But she never felt completely safe in her dorm again. The shadow outside her window had left its mark, a terrifying reminder that sometimes danger lurks in plain sight, waiting silently for the perfect moment. Story 2. The Wendigo of Canada. Deep in the remote forests of northern Canada, the locals speak in hushed tones about a creature that roams the snow-covered woods, the Wendigo. They say it is a spirit of hunger, a monstrous entity that preys on those who wander too far from safety. Jake, an avid camper and hiker, had always dismissed such stories as folklore. One winter, he decided to take a solo trip into the dense forests, seeking adventure and solitude. The snow crunched under his boots as he trekked deeper into the wilderness, the pale light of the sun barely reaching through the tall, frozen pines. That first night, as he set up his small tent, he noticed strange tracks circling his campsite. At first, he thought they were wolves, or perhaps some deer, but the tracks were enormous, far larger than any animal he had ever seen, and the footprints seemed to fade into the trees without a trace. A cold shiver ran down his spine. As the night fell, a low guttural sound echoed through the trees. At first, Jake thought it was the wind, but then he heard it again, a growl unnatural and wet coming closer. His heart raced. He grabbed a flashlight and shone it around, the beam cutting through the darkness. For a moment, he saw a tall, gaunt figure with glowing eyes staring at him from the shadows. He ran to his tent and zipped it shut, his breath visible in the frigid air. The growling continued outside, circling the tent, moving with a speed and agility that seemed impossible. Sleep was impossible. Every snap of a branch, every rustle of snow felt like it could be the Wendigo coming closer. By dawn, the creature was gone, leaving behind footprints that disappeared into the whiteness of the forest. Jake packed quickly and left, never looking back. But even weeks later, he could still feel the icy presence of something watching him, lingering in his dreams. Locals warn travelers, do not wander alone, do not take the forest lightly. If you hear the Wendigos howl, run and never look back. Jake never returned to those woods. And sometimes, late at night, he can still hear the faint, haunting echo of a growl carried on the cold northern wind. A chilling reminder that some legends are all too real. Story 3. The Tower of London Ghost, UK. The Tower of London is famous for its history, its imposing walls, and the countless stories of intrigue, betrayal, and death that echo through its centuries-old stone corridors. But among the tales of kings and prisoners, there is one ghost story that chills even the bravest visitors. The spirit of Anne Boleyn. It is said that Anne, the ill-fated second wife of King Henry VIII, walks the tower grounds carrying her severed head. Witnesses over the years have reported seeing a woman dressed in white, pale and silent, wandering near the chapel where she once prayed, her head tucked under her arm. Mark, a history student from London, was fascinated by the legend. He decided to visit the tower at night, hoping to catch a glimpse of the infamous ghost. As he walked the quiet stone corridors, he felt an unsettling chill, and the air seemed heavier with every step. The silence was broken only by the distant echo of his footsteps on the cobblestones. Suddenly, he heard a soft whisper, almost like a sigh carried by the wind. Turning quickly, he glimpsed a figure in the corner of his eye, a pale woman, her face hidden by shadow, holding something close to her chest. Mark froze, unable to move, as the figure slowly drifted through the hallway. The closer she came, the more he could see the outline of a head tucked under her arm, eyes staring straight ahead with a hollow emptiness. Heart pounding, Mark stumbled backward, tripping over the uneven stones. When he finally looked up, the figure had vanished. He later learned that other visitors have reported seeing her near the same chapel, appearing at the very hour she was executed centuries ago. To this day, the Tower of London is considered one of the most haunted places in England. Visitors walk its corridors knowing that, among the shadows and stone walls, the ghost of Anne Boleyn still lingers. And sometimes, if the night is quiet and the wind whispers just right, you may hear a soft sigh, or even catch a glimpse of a woman carrying her head through history. Story 4. The Min Min Lights, Australia. In the vast open plains of outback Australia, locals speak in hushed tones about mysterious lights that appear after dark, the Min Min Lights. Travelers have reported glowing orbs that hover, follow, and vanish without a trace. No one knows exactly what they are, but those who encounter them never forget. Claire, a young traveler, was driving through the outback one late evening, eager to reach a remote campsite before nightfall. The sun had dipped below the horizon, and the red dust of the plains stretched endlessly on either side of her car. Suddenly, a faint glow appeared in the distance, hovering just above the ground. At first, she thought it was another vehicle, but as she slowed down, the light did not move as a car would. Instead, it seemed to follow her. Her heart began to race. The light stayed at a constant distance behind her, flickering and shifting as if it were alive. Claire tried to speed up, but the Min Min light matched her pace. She turned onto a side road, hoping to lose it, but the glowing orb mirrored every turn. Terrified, she remembered what the locals had warned. If they follow you home, you never return. Claire's mind raced. What could this light be? A trick of the desert heat? A ghostly spirit? She could see nothing around her except the endless red plains and the eerie glow chasing her. Hours seemed to pass, and fatigue set in. Claire finally reached a small outpost where a few workers were closing for the night. She told them about the light. They exchanged uneasy glances. One of them whispered, "You were lucky. Many have seen them vanish, but some never make it home after being followed." Even after leaving the outback, Claire could not shake the feeling that something had been watching her. That glowing light floating silently across the plains was more than a trick of the eyes. It was a presence, patient and mysterious, lingering in the vast emptiness. And sometimes she thought she could still see its faint glow in the distance, reminding her that the Min Min lights are never truly gone. Story 5. The Disappearing Hitchhiker, USA. On a quiet, foggy night along a lonely stretch of highway in the Midwest, Tom was driving home from a late shift. The road was nearly empty, the headlights cutting through the thick mist. Suddenly, he noticed a young woman standing at the edge of the road, thumb out, hitchhiking. Feeling uneasy but wanting to help, Tom pulled over. The woman climbed in silently, her expression pale and her eyes distant, almost hollow. She didn't say a word, only pointed ahead, urging him to drive faster. Tom glanced at her, noticing that her clothes seemed outdated, like something from decades ago. As they drove, Tom tried to make conversation. She responded in short, soft phrases, her voice barely audible over the hum of the engine. The highway stretched on, winding through fields and forest, but something about her presence felt wrong. Finally, Tom approached the turnoff to her destination. He looked over to tell her they had arrived, but the seat was empty. Panic surged through him. He slammed the brakes, frantically scanning the foggy road. There was no sign of her. No footprints, no vehicle, nothing at all. Confused and shaken, Tom stopped at the nearest gas station. He described the woman to the attendant, who listened carefully and then said something that froze him in place. "You mean the girl who died here 50 years ago? She always appears on that road." Asking for a ride home. Tom left the highway immediately, his hands still trembling. The memory of her pale, distant eyes haunted him for weeks. He never traveled that road alone at night again. And though he tried to dismiss it as a trick of fatigue or fog, he couldn't shake the feeling that she had been real. Or at least, real enough to reach into the living world for a brief moment. Story 6. Black-eyed children. It was just past midnight when James heard the soft knocking at his front door. At first, he thought it was a neighbor returning home, but the sound was too light, almost deliberate, and there was a strange rhythm to it. He approached cautiously, peering through the peephole. 2 children stood on his porch, a boy and a girl, no older than 10. They were pale, wearing simple clothes, and the streetlight glinted oddly off their skin. James felt a chill run down his spine as he noticed their eyes, entirely black. Not just dark, but completely black, empty and void, as if staring into nothing. "Hi," the boy said, his voice soft but strangely monotone. "Can we come in? We need to use your phone." James hesitated. His instincts screamed at him to lock the door, but something about their calm, almost pleading demeanor made him pause. He replied, I don't think that's a good idea." The girl stepped closer, her gaze unwavering. "Please, we're just trying to call our parents. We won't hurt anyone." Every nerve in James' body screamed danger. The air felt heavier, colder, almost suffocating. His rational mind told him this was impossible, that children couldn't have eyes like that, but what he saw couldn't be explained. He finally stepped back, slamming the door shut, and pressed the deadbolt. The knocking stopped. For a moment, silence. Then, from the other side, he could hear a soft, almost whispering sound, like their voices echoing from nowhere. James never opened his door to strangers again after that night. He later learned about the stories. Countless reports of black-eyed children appearing on porches, asking for help, vanishing when denied entry. Some claim these children are harbingers of something malevolent, entities that only appear to lure the unwary into danger. Even now, years later, James shivers at the memory. He can still see those eyes in his mind, the hollow, endless black staring into him, waiting for him to make the wrong choice. And sometimes, late at night, when the wind rattles the windows, he swears he can hear soft knocking, as if the black-eyed children are still out there, looking for someone to let them in. Story 7. The thing in the closet. Ever since Liam was a little boy, he had been afraid of the closet in his bedroom. It wasn't the size or the darkness. It was the feeling that something was inside, watching him. His parents dismissed it as childhood imagination, and for years, Liam tried to ignore it. One night, during a thunderstorm, the feeling returned stronger than ever. The lights flickered, and a low creaking echoed through his room. Liam lay in bed, frozen, as the closet door slowly inched open by itself. A shadow moved inside, shifting as if it were breathing. He wanted to scream, but no sound came out. Every instinct told him to run, but he was paralyzed with fear. The shadow seemed to stretch toward the bed, a dark, amorphous shape that pulsed like it had a heartbeat of its own. Liam could feel its presence, cold and heavy, pressing against the edges of his mind. The next morning, his parents found him on the floor, curled up and trembling, pointing at the closet. The door was closed, and nothing appeared to be inside. But Liam knew what he had felt. Something had been there, lingering until the storm passed. As he grew older, he moved out and tried to forget the fear. Yet he could never shake the memory of the closet and the thing that had lived there. Sometimes, when visiting his childhood home, he could swear the door moved slightly, even when the house was empty. And in his dreams, he still felt the cold presence, watching from the shadows, waiting for him to fall asleep. If you've made it this far, congratulations. You've journeyed through shadows, whispers, and unsolved mysteries that have haunted people across the world. From the dark corners of dormitory windows to the endless forests of Canada, from the haunted halls of the Tower of London to the desolate plains of Australia, tonight's stories have reminded us of one chilling truth. The world is far stranger and far scarier than we often realize. Some say these tales are just legends, exaggerated over time. Others insist they are warnings, glimpses of the things that lurk just beyond our sight. And for those who have encountered them, the memory never fades. The shadows follow, the whispers linger, and the chill in the air reminds us that even when we close our eyes, some nightmares do not end. Remember Emily, watching the shadow outside her window, never knowing when it might return. Remember Jake, running through the frozen Canadian woods, pursued by a presence that defied explanation. Remember the ghost of Anne Bullen, still wandering the tower, and the mysterious Min Min lights that follow travelers across the outback. Remember the hitchhiker who disappears, the black-eyed children who knock on doors in the dead of night, and the thing in the closet that waits patiently for its next victim. These stories are more than just tales. They are reminders of our fear, our curiosity, and the unknown forces that exist just beyond the edge of perception. If tonight's journey has unsettled you, good. That's exactly the point. Let the fear linger a little. Let the chill remind you that some mysteries are better left unexplored. If you enjoyed tonight's tales and want to face even more nightmares, subscribe to Nightmare Files. Turn off the lights and sleep carefully, because the world is full of things that watch, wait, and follow long after the stories have ended. Until next time, keep your doors locked, your windows closed, and your senses sharp. And remember, sometimes it's the unseen that is the most terrifying. **